And then I would like to start off by making a formal introduction, if you will, to Dr. B. Rodriguez, who is up in the corner here. B, go ahead and wave, unmute yourself, and say hello to the group. She's our new Director of Professional Development here in the Education Department. So very excited to have her.
Good morning, everybody. I'm excited. Some of you I have had the opportunity to meet with, and there's a good portion of you that I have not. So I'm really excited to see you this morning. Just so we can jump in and get started. Some of you are members of our Education Advisory Group and have already had an opportunity to look at some of the frameworks and proposals that are being offered and have provided us with your written feedback. And so we now want to present that same opportunity to the rest of you Institute directors. So I hope you've had an opportunity to take a look at the framework that has been proposed by the Education Professional Development Committee, along with President Pierce's proposal. And so again, I just want to remind you that these are drafts. These are not set in stone. These are just what we've kind of, as a group, have come up with some agreements as to what they think this should look like for some type of continuing education beyond the MMC. So with that, I'll go ahead and open up the floor because your feedback is very critical to the success of any program that's being put forth in conjunction with our partnership. So please, any of you that have already taken a look at it, please feel free to step in and just kind of have a conversation with us and with each other about it. And then as we move forward, I'm going to be requesting that those of you who have not already provided written feedback, that you kind of put your thoughts together for me, summarize it so that we can move forward and take it to our mid-year meeting so we can share with the board what we have on this program so far. So with that, I'll go ahead and open up to anybody who has a thought, idea, question, or comment about what you've seen so far.
Feel free to unmute or raise your hand and I can unmute you. Whoever wants to go first, no pressure.
I've been here long enough. I should probably know the answer to this, but the CMC and MMC are in some ways optional. I mean, no one is, you don't have to do those things and be a member of IIMC, but it just always has seemed like anything past that, it's always been very clearly stated that this is optional, it's not required. And I do remember, especially early on, that there was a lot of pushback to anything beyond the MMC, but I just don't remember why that was. I don't remember why it's such a big deal that we say that the beyond the MMC program is optional. So I just need somebody to educate me on that and remind me.
Do you want to take that or you want me to?
I mean, Ashley, if you wouldn't mind, I mean, it's my understanding it's still voluntary, but if there's a rationale that you haven't, solid, I would prefer that you go ahead and explain that.
Yeah, the word optional in this case, Amy, comes out of the board's desire to make sure that this isn't seen as recertification, the dreadful recertification word. The IIMC membership, obviously recertification way back when in 2008, 9, and 10 didn't go very well. And for those of us that weren't around and don't have that history, IIMC used to have CMC recertification, not really relevant to the MMC and beyond. So CMC, at one point in time, the board made the decision to go ahead and implement every 2 years, you had to get X amount of points in order to keep that CMC. Well, when members enrolled in the program and got their CMC, that requirement wasn't in place. So the world went up in arms saying, how do you just willy-nilly implement this now, knowing that that's not what we signed up for? So recertification caused a lot of issues in that traditional sense. We eliminated recertification January 1st, 2010, and disappeared with the implementation of what we now have as our education guidelines. So in this case, just to make sure that we're not recertifying or bringing that dreaded black cloud back into the picture. They want to make sure that it's very clear that it's an optional continuing education. You don't have to, but you're totally right. You don't have to get the CMC or MMC or commit to that just to be a member of IIMC at all. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you. As you're saying that, I'm wondering, so we have recertification in Texas. But I understand, I kind of understand why it was a big deal at IMC, especially because I didn't realize maybe that it was something that was new and going to be applied retroactively. I guess I get that, especially, I mean, what if we said, like, I feel like recertification is very important, and that it be required is very important to show that a commitment to continuing education is imperative to what we do. And for us in Texas, and I'm sure it's the same for y'all, it's one reason that our clerks can keep coming back, because they have to. And so I wonder if maybe the beyond the MMC would be a good place to start and say, you can earn this certification or whatever it's going to be called, but it is one that you actually have to commit to recertifying. And maybe this is a place that we could start for that, because it sure does make it easier for a clerk to justify to a boss, you know, I have to keep going to this. So that's just a thought I had as I read through it.
I share probably some of the same things Amy has said. To me, it was so foreign when this whole conversation, and again, I'm pretty new in this whole thing, I guess less than 2 years, why we wouldn't just institute a recertification process, you know, grandfather all the people in and say from this point forward, because it seems like we're muddying the water so much with this new program. I feel like it's going to be difficult to maybe market it, this program. Maybe it's all about the wording of the name of what it's called. But saying beyond the MMC, it's already, you know, kind of confusing explaining the CMC, MMC part. And then this adding this layer, maybe there's a way to clear it up. But I agree with Amy, and maybe this is somewhere in some of these documents, because I got confused on comparing a lot of it. But if you're going to do this, then I think we need to fix it on the front end and say it's got to be a program where after whatever year you have to have so many more hours, because if not, we'll find ourselves back in the same situation that we're currently in. So.
I think just to piggyback on some of that, if you all don't mind, I know President Pierce's proposal has some recertification or continuing education requirement in there, that every 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be. So I know that intention is there underlying. I don't necessarily know that that comes through in the committee's proposal. When the program went from President Pierce's draft and Region 9's draft to the actual education committee, two very different things came out of it. Two very different proposals came in place. So yeah, it's definitely something that should the institute directors, you know, make that recommendation moving forward to implement some kind of continuing mandated requirements, if you will, to continue this, we can absolutely build that in. Any other feedback? Anybody else? Amy Brewer, you're unmuted. I can see your brain working.
Oh, well, as you all know, I'm not an institute director, but the coordinator of all the educations. And I was just curious, just initially, are we all going to agree on the Beyond MMC curriculum? Is that how, or is IMC going to put together? So I guess I'm starting from scratch. I've read through all the documents and I wasn't real clear about that. How is
cutting out.
If I understood her correctly, you kind of
curriculum
went
going to be designed?
right. So that's a really good question, and that's decision is up in the air. That's one of the decisions that we have to make, where IAMC comes in and ends, where our responsibilities begin and end. But I do think as institutes and as institute directors, that definitely should lie with you. You all should decide on the content with our guidance and assistance on what you all want to have as the core curriculum for this continuing education type of program. I also agree with Ashley in that looking at some of the proposals, it is the intention that this be sustainable, and meaning that whatever it is that the members want, once they decide that they want to participate, that there is a type of commitment involved. And so once you begin this, then yes, you must, in order to maintain this next portion, each year you would be required to have a certain amount of points in order to hold this, beyond whatever we're going to call it or whatever you all decide to call it, so that we can sustain it and education can continue, if that makes sense.
What I see where I'm at is people just stop going to classes, period, when they get finished with the institute. It's like done. They don't even go to the next step. And that's really bad. I don't know. And the season clerks don't even come to anything after a while. And I think they think sometimes they don't need anything. So you've got an attitude like that you're working with, at least in Wisconsin, I do. And that's why I offer some of the things I offer, like what I'm doing right now on terrorism. It's something totally different, opens up their mind. And to me, it's advanced education. It's something that's very different, but you need to be thinking about it because it affects your community. And so I wonder if, I know I sent you stuff, and I'm even thinking this morning, I was thinking, well, what about if you made a stackable MMC where you have level 1, level 2, level 3, and because I don't think there's the audience to support beyond the MMC. I really don't. And like I had said before, when we got together in the ERG, I believe that institutes are going to have to collaborate on this because there's not going to be enough people to even do this. We've got institutes that only have 30 people. So how are they going to ever do this? They're not. That's just my 2 cents.
No, we appreciate that. That's why we're all here today, to discuss what are some of the hurdles that you see at your institutes. So that's important. Anybody else want to chime in on that? What your thoughts are on stacking the MMC as opposed to a completely different designation? Amy, your thumbs up for stackable?
Yeah, I don't want to talk again until another person, but yeah, that's what went through my mind too. In Texas, the court clerks have to have level 1, level, or they don't have to, but that is what it is. It's more advanced, level 1, level 2, level 3.
And you know how you could differentiate the thing, I'm just thinking here out loud, is level 1 would have, okay, let all the classes that an institute does work for all levels. Why not? Because it's all advanced education. But then the requirements on the other side, where you have the professional development, make them different on each level. So they would have to have so many institute classes, I don't know, hours, 48 hours, 50 hours, whatever, on one level. But then maybe the professional development would be different. Maybe they would have to do a capstone or something for the community, and each level would be different. So they would be developing their leadership skills, or whatever you want over there, or their service skills, or maybe they need to do service, but have it different for each level. That would be one way to do it, because you only have so many people to fill those seats in those classes. And I don't believe, if you're really doing the Master Academy right, they're advanced anyway. So I don't know how much more advanced, unless you send them to college. And they're not going to do that, because that really pissed them off that one year when you guys wanted them to do the gall darn college degree. Oh my gosh, that started trouble years ago when I was here. It was unbelievable what happened that meeting in Whistler. Holy crap, it was terrible. So anyway, there's some other thoughts.
Ellen Freeman Wakefield's hand, and then Elizabeth Skinner, and then Tracy Borse. So we'll go in that order.
So is this something that the membership, have we surveyed the membership? Is this something that the membership want, or is this something that the board has brought forward because they think the membership wants it? Because if we're going to put all this effort into it, and then we find out, like in Cassie's case, that the clerks don't want it, our clerks don't have to be certified or anything in our state. They are moving through so quickly. I can barely keep up with the basics for the clerk. So if this isn't something that the whole membership wants, then maybe we are putting too much effort into it on the right now.
You want to take that question?
I mean, I know that we have done some surveying, and so the surveys did go out, and there is some, you know, it's kind of 50-50. There is a portion of the membership that, you know, of course, you know, want to continue their education. And then there is that portion that, you know, have the barriers. Where will their city pay for it? I already have my MMC and they don't see any need to have to fund anything after that. I'm sufficient. So there is both of those arguments for sure.
To piggyback on that too, we did do a survey. I can't remember if it was 2018 or 19, so forgive me for that one. But we did survey about 1,400 MMCs, which is how many we have in the organization. And just like B said, the data came back really inconclusive that yes, we would be interested in something, but when you get to the specifics, we don't know what they would want. There's not really anything clear direction-wise that says anything other than I need help securing funding. So as the education department, we look at beyond the MMC and the conversation we're having today and saying, is it really a lack of educational opportunity issue, or is it a lack of funding issue? Is there a way that if we could create more funding opportunities through the foundation or through local associations and scholarships that way, would the attendance increase at local institutes or conferences? Would we have this conversation if there was more money available to help those pursue their education components? Elizabeth Skinner, go ahead.
Thank you, Ashley. Hello, everybody. I'm apologize for being late, but I was teaching this afternoon. I'm in the UK, so it's the afternoon. I don't know what time it is with you. I just wanted to say, you know, first of all, there was some point that Cassie made, which I agree with. I just wanted to, I guess, share a little bit of our experiences in the UK, and I'm responsible for the document called the Elephant Guide that some of you may very well have seen, because in the UK we have a degree program, which Cassie has just said, you know, people will not be interested in. But when this was first, our program was first set up, it was delivered locally in colleges around the UK, and it was delivered in probably 4 or 5 different colleges. But it was decided after that as Cassie suggested, there were not enough people wanting to go onto this higher level of education as clerks. To make it viable at the local college level. And therefore, what happened was that the Society of Local Council Clerks, which is the Clerks Association in the UK, worked with others to create a higher education program that would be delivered by distance learning. And that's where we started. And so where we are now, is that we work with a single university that validates or accredits the program. We have about, and yeah, the kind of things that you're talking about resistance to higher level study, about costs and issues around that, they affect us as well. But I would say we have on average 20 clerks a year. That's from the whole of England and Wales in the UK, 20 clerks a year who start off on our higher education programme. And so that is leading towards a degree. Some of them will do the first level, some will go on to the second level, and probably about 8 a year will get a degree in being a clerk. So I just wanted to share that experience with you, because I think it echoes some of the things that you've been saying. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Tracy?
I think a lot of what I was thinking has been expressed. One idea that hasn't, I wondered if you would or have considered that IIMC would host the Beyond MMC experience, so that the institutes would continue sort of as they are, being the host of CMC and MMC education, where IIMC might do a remote Beyond MMC education. In Vermont, really, small state compared to most of what you are dealing with, but our local state organization, we did throw out an advanced education component to our certification. So we have our initial certification and then 4 levels of advanced. And I think it echoes what people are saying here, like not a strong interest in going beyond, to go all the way back to it required versus a recertification. From what I see of clerks in New England, I think that there is such a mix of people wanting the certifications, and then some need that Beyond MMC sort of theory to continue, for funding from their cities or towns to continue. But then there are others who are scratching away at scholarship applications and whatnot to get that initial CMC or MMC that they can't keep going. But yeah, I wonder, what about that? What about sort of that Beyond MMC being an IIMC hosted?
Ashley, I would like to let you handle that, just because there's some historical background there that I was not present for, just to give everybody an idea of why we probably wouldn't do that entirely. But we would like to fill in gaps if people are opting out of that portion, if they're opting out of going to institutes, or if they don't have an institute. But I think there's a really good reason why IIMC is kind of driving it and taking institutes into consideration.
Sure, Dee. In 2015, when Dr. Jane Long came on board, our former Director of Professional Development, we've been having this conversation for almost a decade now, if not longer, about what comes next. So one of Dr. Long's first tasks was to help us create a Beyond the MMC type of program. And she put together a draft of a program that had 3 different tracks. I believe they were about 30 hours each track in order to get a specialty certificate. So not another designation, not another Beyond the MMC. It was something if you wanted to just specialize and get a certificate program. It was going to be IIMC driven 100%. We would offer online components if institutes wanted to partner or other organizations wanted to partner to offer some of the curriculum, absolutely could, but it was all 100% driven. We ran it by the Education Task Force, which was a special task force put together in 2019 to talk about how do we actually make this come to fruition, and is this what the membership wants? Task force looked at it and said probably along the same line, we like the idea of specialty tracks, we like the idea of specializing, but what about our institutes? If IIMC is doing this, is IIMC a direct competition? Are we encroaching on territory? What about the institutes? So the board of directors said absolutely not. The task force said, it's great in concept, but we're not pursuing any service to the institutes by not driving traffic back their way. So IIMC has explored this option, and the reason we're bringing it to you now is that it's requested that the institutes spearhead this. Institutes, local association conference and events, and then IIMC would be the support in this role. So again, all of this is still very fluid, and full disclosure with us as staff, we look at these proposals and we're not quite sure what to do with them. We're not quite sure if, and all of you as program coordinators, I'm sure could share that same concept that says, here's your draft framework, go make it. And we look at it and stare at it and go, where do we start? How do we do it? And I see a lot of nodding heads, so I know we're not the only ones. So we've looked at this as, can IIMC staff do it? Can we put it together? Can we partner? Can we coordinate? But we keep getting met with, what about the institutes? So our board is very protective of you and your organizations and your roles and what you are offering. So the whole point, from what we understand from our board, is that our job is being tasked with driving traffic back to your programs. Now, if we are totally missing the ball here, and that isn't an issue, that isn't what you need from us, that isn't what you want, we need to know that. That way we can take it back to our board of directors and say, you keep asking us to help the institutes, but they don't want, they don't need, whatever message that you want to convey back to them. We would love your feedback. That way we can say, this is what the institutes need, this is what the institutes want. Tracy, does that help a little bit?
Yeah, thanks for catching me up on that history.
Absolutely. Jason.
So Ashley, to kind of build off what Tracy was talking about, and then especially after the information you gave. So in my mind, one of the ways to maybe make this work and satisfy everybody is that what if IIMC took on the role of the initial, whatever it's called, beyond IIMC, getting that. But then to drive that traffic back and to satisfy all the states is saying, okay, the recertification part of that program, those hours would have to come from your state institution or state programs. So you would have that initial process where they go through and get some kind of quality, online component through IIMC, get that certification, and then say, okay, for you to maintain it, you've got to go back to your state places, because that would then, to me, kind of satisfy all the concerns, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's a valid option. It's definitely something we can talk about. The only thing we need to keep in mind too, with comments like that or thoughts like that, and we bounce these ideas around all the time, is we have 47 universities as institutes worldwide. Not every state in the US has an institute. Not every country that we partner with has an institute. So are we limiting or being exclusive of those that wouldn't have the opportunity to recertify? Would we be blurring borders and crossing lines in order to allow them to travel outside of their area? Right now, it's pretty clear that everybody can go wherever they want to, need to, etc., to get their CMC and MMC credit. So when we think big picture like this and recertification, if you will, in terms of beyond the MMC concepts, how would we do that? Not everybody, Mississippi, Jason, you run a great institute, but we have South Carolina, or excuse me, South Dakota, North Dakota, Pennsylvania, all of these places that don't have an institute. So we could deliver a intro level advanced beyond the MMC, but what about that next step where they have to continue that education? Where do they go? Who is servicing those members? So yeah, you're totally right in that we could look at it and partner together, if you will, just on a step-by-step basis. But where does that get us a couple years into the program when they're ready for their next level? So these are the kind of conversations that we have here in-house all the time, saying, yeah, that could be really good, but what about this group? What about this? What happens with this? So yeah, Jason, feel free to chime back in and add in. Yeah, it's an option.
See, I know that, whoops, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're much wiser. Go ahead.
I'm no wiser than anybody else here, believe me. I know that us and 3 other institutions got together and delivered online. And I believe we need to do online, and there are universities that can get together, could put something together and run them as a group and divide the revenue. And that's what we did when we have done our stuff in the future. And I know we have the ability to do it. I know Nebraska does. I know New Jersey does. And I know Eastern Illinois can too, because those were the four that us four worked together. And I think others can do that too, because let's say, Jason, you can't do online, but that doesn't mean you can't join some of us universities that know how to do it. And we just do all the work. And then you send out your e-blast like they did to all the people that are clerks in your area. So there are ways to do it, but you have to think collaboratively, and you have to think big picture, and you have to know that there are, you just can't be territorial. That's all there's to it. And then we put everything in to the newsletter of IIMC that helped us out to do this stuff. But then it gave everybody the opportunity to have education. And to me, that's really important. IIMC is here to serve everybody. And if we're not serving them, somebody else is going to anyway. It is, because us universities that know how to do it, I'm opening my stuff up to everybody. In fact, I have a plan now that this coming summer in July, we will be doing a national institute. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up all of our classes, and I run 90 that week. And mine will be unique in that they will be able to pick their schedule, all their classes, and pick what they want in each time slot. And it'll be real easy for us to do. So everybody at IMC is going to be able to have a CMC if they want to, because we're going to do it. So I guess, Ashley, that's news to you, but that's what I plan on doing. And they can take what they want and make their, develop what they need to do and have what they need for skills. And the rest of you can do what I do. There's no reason why you can't.
It's news, Cassie, in terms of the final program is coming and here's the date, but it's not news in general. I speak for myself when I say this, that this appears to be the future of education. The way we've been running institutes in the traditional brick and mortar sense, in the traditional territorial sense, it seems to be fading away. And I don't know if it's COVID that pushed us across those borders, or if this has just been the way that it's been transitioning over the last few years. But the evidence is there that members want to cross borders. They like learning from each other. Our Athenian dialogue programs being offered online is so incredibly popular because you get conversations like this, all the different perspectives across the globe, as opposed to just your local area. So while we need state-specific, province-specific, country-specific education, yes, that's definitely a requirement. We have to have that. But in terms of the more collaborative model, blurred borders, bigger picture, I think I 100% agree with Cassie, again, just speaking for myself, that this is the direction that the world is going in. This is the direction that clerk education is going in. And I know that makes some of us very uncomfortable. It will make some of our board members incredibly uncomfortable to think about that. But the reality is that it's staring us right in the face. If we don't adapt and we don't adjust as an organization and really think about, do we want to pick this up and move forward? What is going to happen to IIMC? What is going to happen to clerk education in general? So I'm not surprised, Cassie. I've known it's been coming. I think we all do. It's just going to come down to, how do we do it? Who's going to do it? Who's going to step up? And what's going to happen next? So thank you for sharing it. Tracy.
Question mostly for Cassie. So we know in the Institute guidelines, our Institute curriculum is made up of 3 different sections of courses. So if we can go online to pick your courses next summer, will you have to pick so many in each category? Is that how you'll maintain that? Or is that something that has gone away?
Not really. It actually, for the most part, has a natural, a lot of the skill stuff you teach anyway, ordinances, open meetings laws, all that's there, and they have to have that stuff. We have, we also have writing classes. That's all in that curriculum. And I don't have a lot of leadership and fluff in mine because the people won't take it. So mine is concrete, how to read a contract, how to do, there's just a lot of really good stuff that's in there. And I don't see why it's going to be a problem for IMC to figure it out. What do you think, Ashley?
I don't see an issue with the pick your own track. 50, 30, 20 is what Tracy's referring to. Our guidelines
know.
have the 50, 30, 20. You all are aware of this, hopefully, and if you're not, please let me know. But when you structure your curriculum, we got to have 50% public administration, 30% public or social and interpersonal skills, 20% electives. So if you're structuring it properly to where 50% of your time slots are offering public administration courses, then you're going to stay within that parameter. You're going to stay within that 50, 30, 20. Now, keep in mind, and this may open a whole new can of worms, and this may be something that we regret saying, but institutes are required to offer 50, 30, 20. CMC attendees are not required to take 50, 30, 20. So I know, and I think I'm
sorry, I thought I was muted.
Saying this, but this is where we run into issues. This is where things start to get gray. And when I refer to the traditional institute model, these are the kinds of things that traditionally used to happen before clerk associations started offering their own conferences, before IIMC started offering our big conferences education point wise, before we started partnering with Ed2Go and FEMA and your city webinars and other participants came into the mix, it was 100% institute attendance. So we have transitioned away from that 100% institute attendance into a very, not convoluted, but much more of a melting pot of educational opportunities for the attendees. With that transition, goes away with the reassurance that everybody's getting 50, 30, 20 curriculum. So while the institute guidelines say that you have to stay within that 50, 30, 20 or 80, 20 for the MMC program, the education guidelines, which are specific to certification, don't require us to verify that an attendee has taken 50% of their classes in public administration. Keep in mind too that we don't see your course load until the end of the year when you send us your report. So we give stamping certificates, yes, 20 points, 20 points, 20 points, but we have no idea what we're giving points for until the end of the year or the start of the next year when you tell us. So there are a lot of areas in IIMC and holes in our guidelines that we need to address. If this type of program were to move forward, there's a lot of things foundational level CMC and MMC that we need to look at the same time that we're looking to take it at a higher level. So maybe open a can of worms, but full transparency, there it is.
I kind of want to go back to, I know, Jason, you wanted to kind of add something before Cassie had jumped in, but one of the things you said was equality online from IIMC. So that's important for all of us to hear. And I think we all need to think about whatever this program is moving forward, what portion or percentage do we want this to be online? Because although what I'm hearing on this call is that everybody here is 100% comfortable, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, with an online component, but there are some who are not. And so some of the feedback that has been provided is that should we only consider a portion of this to be online, while another portion is physically driven by institutes, although institutes can do online as well, but what percentage or what portion, and I'm just offering that out there. I'm not saying that's how it needs to be. I just want to offer that. Is that something that interests anybody that you would consider maybe putting a cap on online, or is it something that you're not worried about? I want to hear about that. I want to know. Please.
Ellen, go ahead. I got Ellen, Amy, Tracy.
I can't hear you.
If I missed you, I apologize.
I don't.
Am I going?
Oh,
okay, Ellen.
no, go ahead, Amy.
Oh, well, in Florida, boy, we have a very large group that are anti-online. but they asked us, the Institute of Government at Florida State, to try to prepare a advanced certification. This is before MMC, I mean, beyond the MMC. And we did get them to agree that we would do 50% online and then 50% in person. With that said, the online, when we looked at all the costs, it wasn't cheap. So that's one of my concerns here, is that I don't believe each of us, that'd be a lot of money for each of us to develop our own online advanced beyond MMC certification program. So just my gut feeling, I don't speak for Jeff per se, but I know in Florida, we'd be okay with IMC having, if we all agreed on a set curriculum, a 50-50, like 50% online through IIMC and then 50% in person at the state level. Just my thoughts. And is my mic working okay? Or am I still going in and out?
No, it's better this round, Amy. You're good.
Okay.
Ellen, go ahead.
For us, it's not a matter of having a certain amount online. The thing that we are faced with is that in some parts of Western Nebraska, the broadband width for these people, for our clerks to be able to take online classes is really minimal. And so they may be able to get on in the morning, but then if they have to come back in the afternoon, they won't be able to, because the broadband, and Nebraska is supposed to be working on it, but who knows what's going to happen. So for us, it isn't a case of not wanting to do it or put a cap on it, because I agree. I think this is the way that we are headed. It's going to be, would our clerks be able to do it without having to be able to come to the institute or the academy?
Thanks, Ellen. Anybody else?
So in New England for the last year and a half, we have been able to offer online programming that's gone well. But one thing that we recognize is we really need the in-person. I wouldn't be crazy about something being 100% online. Just in my experience with our institute, coming together is something that really strengthens our institute and creates our following and pulls the clerks together. So I do think there needs to be a physical presence to help support the institutes and the institute's growth and strength.
Go ahead, Laura.
I just think that online, with the amount of people I anticipate participating, I think online is what I would need to do to keep such a program going. So I would support a hybrid model, the asynchronous and then the synchronous live, but still in a virtual format. I think that that's really what it would have to come down to for me to get it up and running. I would support collaborating, but it's really going to take a lot of those good player institutes to pull it off. I had a great experience when I collaborated, but I don't know how those partnerships could be arranged on such a grander scale with the international component of states and other countries working together. So I'm open to that, but I think that's a lot of logistical details we would have to work together to address. And then the last thing I'd say would be the curriculum. I would almost favor a very clearly defined content specific curriculum as opposed to hodgepodge, because I'm really just very still struggling with differentiating MMC and then what a beyond content would be.
Yeah, one of the points I was going to make earlier, and you reminded me, is that when you read the document in additional considerations under B, it talks about the program should be leadership and management driven, but advanced coursework not the same as curriculum offered under CMC or MMC. It's already, I mean, to me, it's a stretch sometimes to find that MMC additional component. And so when you add this on there, if it's at the state level, it's really going to be difficult to continue to reinvent the wheel. So that's the reason I was saying something as a structured IMC part would be, I think, beneficial for us all to have. Now there is one-offs that you can come up with, but when you start down now the third level of something, it gets to be difficult to reinvent leadership and management and truly do it. Now you can say you're doing it on paper, but truly doing it is a different thing.
Any other comments? Anyone else want to jump in? I know we have about, let's say, 12 minutes left today. So B, if there's anything else you want to chime in on or prompt some thoughts, please do so.
Yeah,
This is Linda from ASU. Can you hear me?
Hey, Linda.
Hi, sorry. I was on my phone and I finally had an opportunity to get back to my office. I just wanted to kind of mention something about when we're talking about the online component. So Arizona State definitely prefers in person, but although the association may prefer that, the clerks, it's their option. So that's the question I have. If we're going to the hybrid for beyond the MMC and the clerks choose to take the online component, and let's say we don't offer it, they're still going to earn the points if they take it elsewhere, correct?
In theory, Linda, yes, anybody can attend any of our institutes right now, regardless of whether it's online, in person, however the institutes are offering it, whatever border wise that they cross. So in terms of this particular program, I don't think we flushed anything out really, but generally IMC education, yes.
Yes, okay. All right, that's what I wanted to make sure, because if we're talking some, want to stay completely in person, we don't have, I don't want to, we don't have control over what the individual chooses. They want to get their certification. And we've all been open to encouraging them to get that certification because that's part of who we're serving. They're our customers. So for me, it's, what is their best option? I mean, I've encouraged my clerks to, whatever opportunities are available, you need to pursue that. Of course, I want, all of Arizona State clerks to take it from me. But that isn't always feasible, in their life and what they're trying to do. And also the cost is an impact. We have a very minimal cost for earning their points for the Institute and for the Academy. And some choose not to do the online component because they do not have the funding for that. So that's another thought is, how are we breaking out the cost of a 1-week program of earning these points? We bring in consultants, we bring in our faculty, and a lot of them can't afford to do it for free. Some of them are 100%, I'll do whatever I need to do. So there's fees involved. So when we look at all those pieces together, we have so much control, but there's areas that we cannot control. And it's really up to those clerks. We can't say, no, you cannot take any classes from someone else. You cannot go online. You cannot do this. That's not up to us. So if institutes and states aren't able to go to that aspect of the component online, you're gonna lose a customer base, I think is what will happen. Thank you.
Go ahead, B.
No, I mean, I'd like that version of what she said, and what Jason is saying is that, currently we don't regulate that. IMC is not in the business of regulating where our clerks can go. We want them to have that choice. That is part of our mission, is to make sure everybody has equitable access to education. I think we all agree that that is the most important thing. And so that is the very thing that we need to keep at the front of our brains when we're making these decisions, so that we are enabling everybody to participate in any kind of continuing education, regardless of what we call it. And so I think that's going to be important for you all to consider and think on is there is, I don't have control over that, not any more than you do. So if everybody is okay with that, then we need to be able to say that we are okay with clerks being able to make choices for themselves in their lives and considering their personal finances, since we're not writing those checks for them. So I just want to put that out there as food for thought.
Any other comments before we wrap up and provide some direction on next steps?
I had one question.
Amy, you're cutting in and out though. Just stay close.
And can you hear me now?
You're good. Go ahead.
Are we going to agree on a set curriculum if we do all decide to do the Beyond MMC? A standard curriculum that will, be across every state institute?
I think that's a really good question. I think kind of at its core, you should all consider that to begin. But then I think as the program, whatever it is, graduates, I think then we need to leave an area open that is kind of institute specific, because it's not cookie cutter. Not everything that works for Laura will work in Cassie's state, and not everything that works for Cassie's membership will work for Ellen's members. So I think those are some things that this is the reason why we're coming to you, because yes, this is something that you all will have to decide on portions of the curriculum that are consistent. And then those portions that you'll have the freedom to maybe have, we can call them electives of sorts. So we're kind of putting a percentage or at levels, right? Maybe level 1, there'll be consistency. And then maybe level 2 is where you'll kind of break out to different components that are more topics that are more, salient with your membership, with the people that, attend your institutes. Not everybody wants to be a records manager. Not everybody wants to be a project manager. Not everybody wants to be a parliamentarian. So maybe as the levels graduate, there'll be some, variety there. But again, this is what I would like to open up to you all. So you have the freedom to make that decision. That way, when we circle back, we don't say, well, IMC made all these decisions for us. We did not have a choice. So I want to make sure you all have choice in this matter.
Yeah, I don't like specifics, to be honest, because to me, what's happening, like one of the big concerns for California are fires. And there's environmental stuff that's going on. And if I have to offer something that has nothing to do with my area, why? They're not going to take it. I also think they need to be so broad, because the applications were all different. And you need to be current. You cannot get behind in the curriculum, old-fashioned curriculum. It's not going to work. So you got to keep people, to me, you're educating clerks so that they can be promoted. And if that's the case, you need to be giving them the same ideas that administrators are concerned about and others in the community, so that they can be at the table with everybody that has to do with the community. And that's what I try to do. I try to give them ideas so that they can go to their boards and say, hey, did you think about this? Oh, did you know this is a new way of doing things? And that's why I don't like curriculum that is so stiff. I just don't like it. I like to be creative, and that's what I do.
And you are creative. I don't know if maybe I misspoke, but I think the guidance needs to be there. It doesn't need to be a specific, you shall have elections covering these topics, but it needs to be a guided structure, so it's not overlapping, and that the mission of all these conversations is accomplished by having this new tier. So maybe I misspoke, but I don't support a strict curriculum, but I do think it needs to be clearly give us a direction to go in, because otherwise I think it's just going to be convoluted for us, for the students, and for IIMC too.
Well, Bea, do you want to wrap us up for the day and give them some next steps?
So just to follow up with both Cassie and Laura, I agree with that. And perhaps maybe it's more topics that we agree on, some topics that might be covered for clerks who are, that is more advanced than what we're currently offering in MMC, and how you get there will be left to you as the IDs to fulfill those components, if that makes sense. So that's something to consider. Just with next steps, again, everybody, this was a really good conversation and very important for us to hear what is on your mind as far as this is concerned. But I would like those of you who have not already provided me with written feedback to please provide me with your feedback on, you know, your feeling and comfort level with online and that portion of the component. I like that a lot of you talked about 50-50. Tell me that, you know, you're okay with, you know, members having choice. We want to know that. Just give us some written feedback as to your thoughts and concerns or ideas about what you think this could be. Is this something you're interested in? Is this something you're not? Do you want to collaborate with other states? Do you not? Please give us your written feedback so we can take it to the board so a decision can be made as to how we want to move forward with this. And those of you who have already given me feedback, if you got further ideas because of this round, that's fine too. Send me any thoughts. But I would like to get them in writing. And if I could get them, what do you think is a good deadline for us, Ashley, to get this feedback?
I think because of the deadline for our mid-year report, we're trying to present this to our board of directors at mid-year, which our report is due the 17th. I know that's not a reasonable request to ask for your feedback within a couple of days. So maybe a week, and I think we could squeak in a little bit of a late handout, if you will, for our mid-year presentation. So I think a week from now would be safe.
Can I ask one quick question? Sorry, and I may have missed something, so I apologize. Can the clerks earn points outside of our program towards their Beyond the MMC certification?
I don't think that's been established yet. I don't think it's been decided where they're going to get points at all, whether it's institute, IIMC, associations. So until we figure out what this program actually is, I don't think that we're at the point where points can be earned here, here, and here. So I think we still have a lot longer to go with that one, Linda.
All right, perfect, thanks.
Be a week sound okay?
I
Everybody
think we're
okay
good.
with
If we don't have, if there's no other final thoughts, and if that's fair to everybody to get that to us, I think we're good here.
that? Okay, sounds good. Thank you for your time, everyone. We appreciate your thoughts. We appreciate your feedback. We appreciate you joining us, just taking the time to help us flesh all of this out. I know your written feedback will be incredibly valuable for us to share with not only our education committee, but also with the board of directors. So thank you for joining us. We look forward to hearing what you have to say via email. And if you need anything from us, always reach out. Headquarters is always here. Dr. Rodriguez and myself are always here. If you need something, please reach out.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Have a good
Thanks.
Bye.
Y'all too. Bye.
Bye.
Well done, Dr. B.
Wow, like they said a lot, and it's so, isn't it funny? Like somebody would have you believe one thing, but everybody is okay with the online. Where are we getting this?
Sharing too, like cross borders, share, it's okay.
And 50-50, like they're open to 50-50, which I thought it was going to be less than that.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like 90-10, maybe 80-20, but 50-50. I mean, that,
Yeah.
and that's fantastic even for Amy in Florida, who seems, she's a little, you know, she's got some anxiety about it, but she's
Yeah.
open to it.
Yeah.
And that's telling a completely different story. Like, I am so happy with today's meeting.
Good.
And aren't you, everybody's like, why can't IIMC take the lead? Like, I would be happy to.
Yeah,
But
and
that's-
I anticipate more of that. I don't think that they're as like, no, I want to hold on to everything as our members think they are. I really think that old school mindset is just not as prominent as Sherry would like to believe.
Exactly. And
Okay,
even,
jump on
Okay.
the staff meeting and then
Okay.
we'll talk about it after. Okay.
okay,